This is just a quick video to give you some guidance on using video calls with students and give you some tips that might be useful. So the first thing I would like to talk about are some of the things just to be careful of, and then I'll run through a video call and all the features of a call and how you can set up calls. The first thing you need to be aware of is that students shouldn't be left in a call on their own without a teacher, just like you wouldn't leave them in a classroom on their own. So you want to make sure there is a teacher present at all times. Be careful of this when you use breakout rooms. Breakout rooms separate students into smaller groups. If you were breaking them into 4 smaller groups, you would want to make sure that there were 4 teachers available so they could keep an eye on each group of students. When you end a call, you want to make sure that you end the call for all to make sure there's no students left in the call. I will show you how to do this. You want to encourage students to turn their camera and mics on, but do not force them. Create some rules and guidelines for your students. Make sure that they know that they should be dressed appropriately and in an appropriate location for their call. You don't need to have 2 teachers in a call, but you want to make sure that other teachers are aware or somebody else is aware that you are in a call, especially if it's a call with just 1 student. Make sure there's another teacher aware that this is happening. If you are not sure about being left on your own with in a call, it's best to have a second teacher there just in case. If you're not confident and you're not sure of all the features of a call, it's best to have another teacher in there as well to help make sure there's no issues that are present until you become more confident with what you're doing. If it's a large class, I would advise you to have a second teacher present, as trying to handle all at the one time can be quite complicated, especially if you've got students using the chat inappropriately. You know your class, you know if you can handle it yourself, or you might need a second person in there. When I have small groups of students, I'm quite happy to do that on my own, but if I have a larger group with 20 or more students, I quite like having somebody else there that they can moderate the chat for me, especially if I'm sharing my screen. I can't quite see what the students are saying or keep up with what they're doing. Be fully aware of everything you can do in a call. I'm going to walk through this with you so you can see yourself. I advise you to use the desktop app when you're doing your calls. So if you have to log into Glow to open Teams on a browser, that is a browser application, and it doesn't have all the full functionality the desktop app has. With the desktop application, you can change and you can blur your background, which is advised to do. You can use a lobby, so it's advised to use lobbies with your students so you can moderate who joins the call. You can switch this off if you're doing a call with other adults, and sometimes it can be a hassle to have to accept everybody who's coming in. So the first thing I'm going to have a look at with you is how to start a call. So there are various ways you can do this. So on your team, I've got a test team at present. I do also advise having a test team to play around with this. In the top right, there is a meet with a camera icon. If you click the little arrow, it gives you options to meet now, or you can schedule a meeting for the future. There are various ways to make calls. I'm just going to show you a couple of methods. I'm going to meet now to show you what I'm doing. So you can meet now, and it'll give you some options of how you would like your room. You can turn your camera on or off, and you can change your background ready for students to come in, and you can set up your microphone. So I will join this call. I have a test student logged in on a separate laptop, so I'm going to show you what it looks like adding them in and them using the lobby. So my test student is called Sally Smith, and she is going to join in. So we should see we've now got somebody waiting in the lobby. So I've got a little icon for my participants, and I can see in the lobby I've got Sally Smith. So I can accept or I can decline. So I'm going to accept Sally into my call. This is what you want to do with students. I can change, this also happens with teachers when they enter a call, but you can change them. So you can see that I'm a presenter and Sally Smith is an attendee. She will not be able to share her screen and she will not be able to mute other participants. So I want to keep all my students as attendees, and I want to make sure my teachers are presenters. To change this, if you hover over, you've got these 3 dots which give you more options. You can make them a presenter, If you want them to have the control of muting other students, it's best to do that if you've got other teachers in your call. You can remove them. If there's students that are acting inappropriately, they might be using the chat inappropriately, you can just remove them. They will not be able to automatically join back in as they enter through the lobby, so you can decline them there. If you want to make their screen big for everybody, you can spotlight them as well. And if they've got their microphones on and you want it off, you can mute them too. So that is our participant section. So if you're using the browser application, it looks slightly different. You get a bar along the middle of your screen, but with the desktop you have your icons along the top. So we have our participants, we can hide them. We can show our conversation. This is good for showing who's entered the call, so you've got a log at the end of who has entered and joined. You've got the hands up function, which allows students to raise their hand if they wanted to speak or give an indication of something. We've got this icon, which is for breakout rooms. You can separate, if you had a group of 20 students and you wanted to break them into 5 smaller groups, you can do that. But make sure you have a teacher, so you would want to have 5 teachers if you had 5 breakout rooms, to make sure there was a teacher in each room. You can turn your camera on and off, and you can mute. And here you can share your screen. This can be a little bit tricky sharing your screen sometimes, because we can get tripped up with little bits. If you want to play a video to your class, you would want to make sure you included computer sound. Right now, you're hearing the sound through my microphone. If I played a video, you would not be able to hear it. If you want the students to hear your video, you have to make sure you click this box, include computer sound. If you forget and then share your screen, you have to unshare it and get back to this point again to tick this box to include your computer sound. You then have different options to share. So with desktop, if I shared my desktop, everything that I view on my screen, I would be sharing with my students. So if I change windows, they would be able to see that. If you're using desktop, I would advise you to close any windows you wouldn't want to accidentally share, like your emails, beforehand. If you click on window, it gives you an option of any of the windows that you've got open to choose from. So if I clicked on this window, they would be able to see it, but they wouldn't be able to see anything else. So if I switched to a different window, they wouldn't be able to see it. If I shared a PowerPoint, they would only be able to see the PowerPoint. They wouldn't, if I then moved to my emails, they wouldn't be able to see the emails. They would only see the specific window you've chosen. Whiteboard is another nice new feature where you can write on the screen and they can see what's going on, and they can collaborate as well if you select that option. So have a practice with your sharing your screen to make sure you're choosing the correct options and you're not sharing anything you wouldn't want the students to see. Up here we've got more actions. So in here we've got device settings, meeting options. You can turn the lobby on and off. You've got gallery. Together mode is a nice, you can only use this in the desktop app. It's a nice mode where you can have students, if you've got 5 or more with their cameras on, you can sit them in little chairs. It's just a bit of fun. Apply your background effects. Turn on live captions if it wants to try and translate everything you're saying into words. So there's various settings, but be familiar with this. Have a play about so you know exactly what it can do. Also, to end this call, you can see the leave button in the top right. There's a little arrow next to it. Leave. You can leave the meeting, or you want to end the meeting for everybody. If you end this meeting, everybody gets kicked out. This is advised if you're doing a meeting with students. You want to kick everybody out at the same time. So I can do that and I can end the call. The way I showed you to start this call, by meeting in the top right, this creates a call within this team, so only members of this team can access the call. If you wanted to create a call for members of 2 or more teams to join in, you can do this by gaining the team email address and sending an email meeting to the different teams. So in the top right, they've got these 3 little dots. If you click them, you can get email address for your team. So you can do this for each team you're wanting to send the meeting to. You can copy that address. When you're in your emails, so I went into calendar, I can select a new event. I'll call this test. And in my attendee, insert the email address of that team. And I will do this for each team that I wanted to invite. You can select your details, your time. the date, and any other description or documents you want to attach. But the important part here to make sure it's an online meeting is when it says add online meeting, you select Teams meeting. You can then send this and it will send an email to your team. This is one I did earlier and it should pop up. Here we go. It's called test. Click see more and we've got our link to our meeting. This will be sent to every team that you sent this to. They click on this link and they join the same call. Hopefully you found this training worthwhile. Please get in contact if you have any other questions.